Brother Buck, how are you?
I'm well on this extremely sunny day.
Oh, awesome. Glad to hear it.
Are there many here?
You're the only one so far.
Okay. What's the difference between York Rite and the other one then? Because I hear you speak about York Rite
Oh,
and Scottish Rite. What would we be here then in England?
well, technically, you would be York Rite, but people disagree on that. I see York Rite as like the default, unless you're specifically in, say, another country, like as the Swedish Rite or the rectified Scottish Rite or the Memphis Mizraim, or where Scottish Rite is like from Entered Apprentice onward. All of those are different rites. Those of us who practice regular old masonry, where there's a Blue Lodge and there's a Grand Lodge, like all of America and UGLE, we're all York Rite because it comes from the York Rite. But people disagree with that. It's like, well, if it's not York Rite, what is it? Well, they don't have a good answer. But
the other things, stated and unstated meetings. What does that mean?
What's that?
Stated and unstated meetings.
Oh, that's kind of my own little joke. I'm having a little bit of speaker problems. I got new stuff today. So a stated meeting is a regular lodge meeting, right?
Okay.
During COVID, we couldn't have our August stated meeting. So I decided to say, let's have a Zoom meeting. And the Grand Lodge made a big stink about you are not allowed to do ritual, and make sure that all of your members know that it's not gonna be a stated meeting because it's online. And so I made the joke, okay, I said, well, since it goes without saying that we're not having a stated, then it's kind of unstated that we're meeting. Okay. That was my little joke, and that became it. So we're an unstated meeting because it goes without saying we're not in a lodge room. So it's unstated. Okay. Make sense?
Yeah.
But how you doing, John?
Other things I hear about. Here we've got Royal Arch. Do you have Royal Arch over there?
We do. Hang on.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Istvan. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, we still have a few minutes. I just wanted to make sure. Can you hear me well? Is this microphone?
Yeah, I was having some tech issues. Hey, Alan, can you say something? Can I check your volume again?
The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
Oh, look at this. My fair Mason. I love it. Good afternoon, Brian. Nice to see you.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Yeah, all kinds of little technical stuff I'm trying to get straight. Today, let me take Brian and make him our lovely co-host. There you go.
Thank you very much.
And all right. And nice to have you with us, Cleo. Good to have you in here. John, I don't think I heard you at all. John London, I don't think I heard you. Can you say something?
Something.
Hey, see, brevity is the soul of wit. There we go. All righty. So I'm moving and tweaking it. Yeah, one day, Brian, will be a full-fledged operation, and I'll have an official, recording staff and a makeup artist, and I just show up, sit down, and talk. That would be ideal.
Wouldn't be much fun, though.
I know. So, good morning, Ron. Nice to have you with us. Right. So, let's see. We have a few people. Okay, it's 10 o'clock, but let's give people a couple more minutes to come in. So, Brian, are we all in sync again with the daylight savings time and all that? We're back to what we used to be. Okay.
Yep. We're absolutely fine.
That period where it's like we start and you don't, and whatever. It's like, okay, I got to remember whenever daylight savings time comes around to tell you, okay, it's 10 o'clock now. Because it does throw people off. Hey, yeah, there was that one time we had it was after daylight savings time, and a whole bunch of people turned in 11 o'clock. There's also one time it's amazing. It's like, you publish something in the paper and you publish a correction and nobody sees the correction, right? I had an email I was sending out to the whole research paper mailing list, and I listed all of the upcoming events in Virginia between the 6 different research lodges and the Zoom meetings. And I had one event, just one group meets at 11 o'clock, and I was copying and pasting. And I managed in one of the Zoom meetings to say 11 instead of 10 because I copied and pasted. And for weeks, even though I fixed it the next time it went out, for weeks, people were like, well, you're at 11. You're at 11. It's like, we've never been at 11. Why is it you see the one mistake and cling to that and never see any of the follow-up saying 10 o'clock, not 11? So, but we get people rolling in at 11. We're in the middle of the talk or the last third of the talk. And then I see people coming in. It's like, oops. Hey, welcome. You're an hour late. Sorry. Plus, I had somebody, I'll go ahead and make fun of him. Was it Pedro Camacho joined us at 6:57 a.m. So that's 3 hours early for me. I don't know where they are, where they thought 7 a.m. was 10 a.m. But so they try to join. It's if someone tries to sign on before I signed on, I get an email saying someone's joined your meeting, which is good. But it's only when I'm not on. So of course I don't get an email when any of you come on because I'm already here. But I'll get an email an hour or so before, or 3 in the afternoon. I'll get one. So someone try to join later on. But anyway, so hopefully Pedro will find us. And the trouble is, all it says is their name. It doesn't give any contact info. So I can't even reach out to poor Pedro, who I don't know, and say, hey, man, come and join us at 10. Anywho. So with all that, it's after 10. We got 10 people here. Hello, Obi. Hello, Kyle. I think I said hello to everybody else. Let me do this. And this is why we have editing. So I will cut out all of this nonsense when we put this out on YouTube. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Douglas. I am the senior warden and all-around web guy for Virginia Research Lodge, number 1777. This is our May 11th unstated meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here today. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And I'm going to go ahead and post my moving stuff around here. My links in the chat for everyone. So everyone, boom. Okay, so that is our Facebook group. If you're not already a member of our Facebook group for Research Lodge, please join us. We publish our weekly papers there. They host these unstated meetings and other useful things people post on there as well. A lot of good Masonic education stuff there. Then our lodge website, and where we publish our papers and other things. All of the 6 lodges in Virginia, we have one coming along that's going to be chartered soon, we hope. All of them, we have their events as well as AMD and the research chapter are listed there. Then we have our link for our link for our YouTube videos, and then finally our other YouTube channel that is still being developed. I guess I should finish it out before I start promoting it. But there it is. If you want to check out the new Research Lodge YouTube, you're probably watching this on Cigar Doug, which is my YouTube channel. And at some point, I want to move everything to Research Lodge's own channel, but better branding. But we're not there yet. And then my email, if you're not on Facebook, please email me if you want to be added to our research papers mailing list, which we send out every week. So that's all that official stuff. Oh, Alan, you had a question before all of my hardware went haywire. You were asking a question, something about you were asking about Royal Arch, I think.
Yeah. Do you have Royal Arch?
We do, yes. We have, and that's what's called. We were talking about York Rite, Scottish Rite. Most Americans, well, because Scottish Rite is an independent body here. Most of us, that means you join the Blue Lodge, and then at some point after your Master Mason, you join the Scottish Rite. The York Rite more commonly refers to the Royal Arch chapter, the council, and the commandery, which are all different bodies in the York Rite line of things. Royal Arch is has like 4 degrees, and the Royal Arch degree is the last one, except in Virginia and West Virginia, the council degrees are included in the Royal Arch chapter. Everywhere else, they're a separate body. So you join the chapter, then you join the council, then you join the commandery, and of course you have to be a Christian to join the commandery. But what's different is Virginia at some point just decided we're going to put the council inside of the chapter, so we kind of have a joint grand council, grand chapter thing going on. But
Okay, thank you.
yes, absolutely. And I do want to have another Zoom meeting at some point. We're going to talk about contrast and compare England's appendant bodies with America's, because I think they're very similar, but there's a lot of fun differences. And I think that's worth a chat all by itself and get people inputting on that. So, I also want to say hi to Alan. I didn't get to say hi to Alan when he came in. Good to see you, brother. And then he disappears. You know, that truck's got to be really heavy hauling around all of those presidents in, you know, all that behind you. That's you must use up a lot of gas hauling Mount Rushmore around. It's a week. But he's with them wherever he goes. So that would be kind of neat, taking on the road. It'd be hard to take that on the road, but it's like, you know, you never get up to North Dakota, you want to see the Mount Rushmore. You know, it's like, well, it's coming to your town. Alan's going to bring it in on a flatbed. Everybody gets a good look, and then goes on his way.
I am.
What's up?
I'm sorry, I was muted. I tried to tell you earlier, I logged on a whole week early one time, remember?
Yes, you did, and you're fussing at me. Why didn't we have our meeting? Well, because we didn't have one that day. Well, actually, there was one day right at 10 o'clock, you emailed me. It's like, why aren't you on? I said, well, other than the fact it's Friday, not Saturday. But yeah. But that's devotion, and we appreciate the dedication of our small band of regular YouTube attendees. So
if somebody could send me a copy of the lecture on May 18th, I'd really appreciate it, but I'll be on the road, won't be able to attend the meeting.
I will talk to, well, you met Brother Junior. He was at the Grandmaster's official visit to the research district.
Right.
Yeah, he was the one that was fussing because he saved me a seat and I was going to sit with you. I said, well, I never met Alan in person. I want to sit with, I see you all the time, Michael. I'm going to sit with Alan. See, like, it's nice. I mean, one day I'm going to actually go into a lodge meeting and see Brian, and it will shock him. Well, even more now, but, you know, it will shock him.
Exactly.
But it's really neat to get to meet people in person that you've known online. I mean, Brian knows as well as I do. All these people we know online from social media and all that. We have year-long friendships with people that we've only met online, and thankfully, because of this, we're able to actually see each other, you know, face to face. We know what each other looks like vaguely, other than a little profile pic that's misleading. But you know, to actually go to a lodge something or a Scottish Rite something and see somebody I've known online for a while is really pretty cool. So when Alan and I got to meet up there in Fredericksburg, that was pretty sweet. So yeah, that's the cool thing about this is getting, I mean, it blows me away that I know people in like Australia and England and Scotland and other countries that I might never meet in person, but I feel like I know you well, even though we live in other continents. So the technology is just so cool. But when you get to meet in person, you're like, whoa, that's so cool. Anyway, and I'm babbling as usual. That's part of the fun of this Unstated here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brother Istvan and let him introduce himself. However many titles as he wants to announce to us, he can, or he can just say, hi, I'm just brother, whatever works for him. Istvan, do you have a presentation, or are you going to need to share your screen?
Not this time.
Okay, all right. Well, go ahead and take it away then, brother.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. It's morning here in Ontario, where I am. And greetings to all the attendees. Well, I won't do a too long introduction of myself. You can read online and in my book and everywhere a lot of about my memberships in different bodies and research bodies and other interesting places. Yes, as Chris said, I am just Brother Istvan Horvath. That's the correct pronunciation in my language. My name is Istvan, And I was made a Mason in Hungary, in Budapest, and I came to Canada as a Master Mason. And after that, after a break for family reasons, I started to complete my Masonic journey here in Ontario, Canada. And I also started, how to say, my Masonic writer and speaker. I wouldn't call it a career. It's just, it's more, as my wife said, your hobby that you don't do anything besides masonry, which is not true. I also do gardening and cooking. Anyway, I assume the reason why I am lately invited to different lodges and different groups to talk is my book that was published last year here in Hamilton, Ontario, and it's called Weekly Masonic Doubts. And I will tell you later, for those that are interested in it, where and how to get it. But one of the chapters, the book is made up of 52 mini essays or articles, whatever you want to call it. The reason it is 52, because it was intended to have one for each week of the year. So any brother can read one of those and then contemplate, think, whatever about it. And then next week, go and read the next one. And again, spend the week thinking about it, contemplating, maybe doing your own research to prove that I was wrong. That's also very, very acceptable. I even expect it. And then after a year, you have a whole picture what I was trying to achieve in this book. So one of the pieces in this book has the title Mystery Plays and the Hiramic Legend. Now, how I got to this point to write about this, I would like to give you a little bit of background. I hope that it won't be too boring. What I usually don't say in my introduction is that in my student years, I was a founder as actor and director of a kind of avant-garde theater group. So my interest in theater and everything related to it dates quite early, because there is a lot of years since I was a student. And ever since, when I am trying to mentor some younger brothers about how to deliver a piece in the ritual, or just the officers doing the openings and closings, I am trying always to explain that don't rush, be expressive, because this is like a role play. The master is asking questions, you are answering to it. So it's a dialogue. Make it a live dialogue that makes sense to everybody who is listening to it. It has a lot of theatrical elements, and I am not the only one who realized that. Actually, there is an American professor, Panil is his name, Pann, but ILL, and it's also listed in the bibliography of the book. He wrote very interesting articles about the theatrical elements in our ritual and in the Freemasonry in general, in different stages. It's really worth reading those papers, essays, because they put a totally different light. He is studying, he is teaching theater and literature at the university, so he comes from a different perspective and sheds some light that we are inside of the ritual or the ceremony, we don't even realize. So that's very, very interesting. So it's like with many other aspects of Freemasonry, it seems that the academia is started to pay attention also, I would say catching up with the theatrical analysis or the theatrical point of view in approaching and analyzing, describing the peculiarities of our ceremonies, our rituals. Now, if you are at least even just vaguely familiar with the history of Masonic rituals, you are aware that there is a theatrical element from the very beginning. If we think back to the origin of any theater from the old Greek culture, the antiquity, at the beginning it was only one person, like a bard telling the whole story. Then a big innovation was introduction of the second actor and then the third actor. So those were very important stages, and in that regard, our ritual, especially how it was at the very beginning, how it was taught, if you look at the very early exposures about our rituals, it's always or almost always a kind of dialogue between the master or a member of the lodge and the new candidate. So that's how it was taught. That's how it was repeated many times. So it was always a live dialogue, and only so the catechisms, as are mostly known in the American ritual and in American say tradition, they are basically today what was left from this theatrical dialogue, which characterized the whole ritual, and what we call them the lectures, or so. They were introduced only later, when somebody stands up and tells us a long story and everybody is listening to it. If you go back to the earlier versions of the ritual, you always discover that these moral lectures were actually presented at the beginning as a dialogue. So we know, if you look at the very first exposure, it's very interesting. I always say this, that it's very interesting that we know about the very beginning of our rituals, our ceremonies, because some we would say unruly Masons or bad persons published what was not supposed to be published to get to the readers. It's very interesting that almost all of our knowledge from the early period of Masonry comes from this kind of exposures, when somebody, not either with hoping some financial gains by selling those books, or because a disgruntled Mason, or who knows what their reasons were, they published what was supposed to be a secret ritual. Otherwise, we wouldn't know much, because Masons allegedly didn't write down the rituals. It was taught mouth to ear, as it is even today done in some places. Now, after the very first exposure, there was for about from 1730 till the 1760s, there were no other exposures in printed or published in English. However, during that time, there was a great deal of exposures printed in France, in French. And those, if you look at them, they were also mainly in dialogues. So you can see that this theatrical element of two actors, so to speak, speaking and conveying the message, it happened like that. Now, as in the Preston Webb ritual, what most of the American Grand Lodges are using, a variant of them, except Pennsylvania, I guess, also has some kind of theatrical illustration. I just, I don't know, recently I went to my favorite Buffalo Lodge, Harmony. I visit them quite often, and they were presenting a drama part of a kind of illustration of one of the degrees at that night when I was there. So it's very, very interesting that in the older versions of, I would say, the ancient versions, Irish and ancient traditions of ceremonies, there is a lot of theatrical part. Even here in Ontario, we have two lodges who were established by the Grand Lodge of Ireland before the Grand Lodge of Ontario in Canada was established. And they joined the new Grand Lodge in 1856 only the condition that they can keep their own ritual. And so it became a mandatory for master masons in Ontario, especially Southern Ontario, to go to London twice a year. They present a third degree, which is like a theater play, dressed in costumes and really acting. So this is just another proof that the theatrical element was there all the time. But it seems that in the third degree, it is there with a twist. But before I get there, I want to mention that the emulation ritual, which is used widely in England, even with the 80-something variants of it, and one variant was also brought here to Canada and is used almost in all the provinces under different names, but basically it's an emulation based ritual. Now, that ritual, to say, put it mildly, killed almost the whole drama in our ceremonies, especially in Enter the Apprentice and Fellowcraft degrees. It's like a boring moralistic lecturing, telling all kind of stuff, what to do, what not
I'm sorry,
to do.
Istvan, I'm sorry. You said it killed the drama?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear that word clearly. Okay.
Yes. Yes. So took it out. Yeah. So, but even this ritual couldn't really remove the theatrical element or the drama from the third degree. Sorry. Now, there is I found an article which was written in 1903. And at that time, they had 14 different hypotheses about the origin of the Hiramic legend in our third degree. And of course, there is no agreement even today among scholars, among different Masonic authors writing about it. What exactly was the origin of this legend? Because to be honest, it has almost nothing to do with that Hiram which is mentioned in the scripture. Now there are a lot of hypotheses, but the most interesting thing is that it seems to be agreement only on who introduced this legend, and most likely it was Desaguliers, who was a very interesting and very important person in the early history of the Premier Grand Lodge in London. And it also raises the question, okay, where did he get inspired from? So how did he arrive to add this legend to the third degree? We know that before that, there were only 2 degrees, the entered apprentice and fellowcraft. And there are a lot of proofs, if you look even at our different rituals, or even the installation of the master of the lodge, that is usually done in the 2nd degree. So it means that there was no other master, only the master of the lodge, what we call today the worshipful master. Now, let me get to the mystery place. When I first read about the possible influence of mystery plays on our 3rd degree, and in combination with the Hiramic legend, it caught my attention because, like with many other, how to say, things that disappeared in the Western culture, like the folklore. Nowadays, you cannot go to a village in the Western world to find some, old people who know hundreds of folk songs or fairy tales or different genres of the folklore, this oral tradition of most nations and most ethnic groups, languages. In the Western culture, in the Western world, they kind of became, because the oral tradition went away with the urbanization and different other developments there. So now we have them only as written down by ethnographers and other specialized researchers. Now, as opposed to that, in Eastern Europe, where I grew up, all this folklore is still alive, including so-called peasant mystery plays played by during different festivities, mainly religious church-related festivities, but there are also some others which are remnants of some kind of pagan traditions veiled in some kind of Christian mask, so to speak. And so I am always interested to discover in the Western tradition, somewhere back in the past of the Western tradition, certain elements of that folklore, which for me was still alive and very familiar as I grew up. So this should be the background, how I arrived to this idea. And I also, of course, I always read a lot of books and a lot of articles until I find what seems to be a good either proof or some kind of support to the ideas that I am trying to present. So that's how I came to discover different authors. I mentioned them all in the bibliography. And this, so let's get back to the mystery plays. As you may know or may not, they were some kind of medieval events. When I am quoting here and there from my own text, so they were biblical scenes played for the illiterate masses in and around the churches. So they became very popular in the medieval times, but after the Reformation, in some places they were banned, like, for example, in the Elizabethan England. So Queen Elizabeth forbade to play mystery plays around the churches. So as I mentioned, there are still mystery plays as a living tradition in Eastern Europe, like Poland and Hungary. And now, in some places, for example, in York, UK, which has nothing to do with the York rite that was mentioned earlier. I was there, asked them, they don't know about the York rite. And anyway, so the builders, the Guild of Builders, started to present, to revive medieval plays that still exist, written down today. And they presented the creation, and you can go on YouTube and find a very good record of that presentation. Now, as the mystery plays got out from the church and they started to play them around the church or simply on the streets of the cities, and they were presenting different stories for the moral instruction, I would say, of the population. They had a similar function, like think about the 12 stations in most of the Christian churches, which depict the last day of Jesus Christ, different stations. And then also the windows, those famous windows in the Gothic cathedrals, had also a very similar function, telling visually a story for the illiterate people who couldn't read religious literature or the Bible. So the mystery plays had this same function, only now it became live, a live presentation, not just a static like a picture or the painting on the wall. So this mystery plays were presenting that they sometimes in the different scenes were on different stages, and the spectators were walking from one stage. Okay, they finished this story. Now we move to the next stage where we follow the continuation, and then again moving to the next one. Now, those that are Masons among us here, and you can think back of your degrees when you received, were you not taking from one place to another place and explaining different things? But more importantly, well, what shows that this might have been an element contributing to the development of this third degree, which was all the researchers and scholars agree that it was added sometimes between the 1720 something till 1730, because the first exposure already talks about 3 degrees. But when the Premier Grand Lodge was formed in 1717, and even when the first constitution of Anderson was published in 1723, it mentions only 2 degrees. And it says that every fellow of the craft can become master of the lodge if served warden for a year. So there was no master mason. The master meant always the master of the lodge, which we call it worshipful master. So these two first degrees, the entered apprentice and fellowcraft degrees, are they can be regarded as a 2-stage initiation, how they are today. And there are a lot of moral teachings. Sometimes when people are critical, they say that it's just moralistic. And sometimes you will find very, very strange instructions, what to do, what not to do, that the initiate, that he covered not the wife, not the daughter of his masters, neither of his fellows, but if it be in marriage, nor hold concubines for discord that might fall amongst them. There was such teaching that you have to follow this. But of course, there were more important things. This is just a funny part. And they were instructing the candidate to follow a certain moral conduct, mainly in the first degree, and the study of the laws of nature, mainly in the second degree. Now, if you look at the structure, how the text, the parts are built in these 2 degrees, they follow a very, very similar pattern, and which is very well known by cultural anthropologists under the term of rites of passage. So the first 2 degrees follow this pattern, and later on, in the 3rd degree, the candidate now becomes a protagonist of the drama. It's not only that he watches an illustration, but it requires the candidate to actively partake in it. As the main character, which we know is Hiramic. There are different hypotheses where Desaguliers and eventually his complices who created this 3rd degree, where did they get this story? And I won't bore you with long philological quotes. I gave a few references when I wrote this part, and I may do it. I may publish it as a separate piece, but the most important thing is that they added this story, and I am telling again that it has nothing to do with the character with the same name from the Bible, the 1 Kings 7:12 and 2 Chronicles part 2:13. So it is an invented story portraying a fictional character, yet it became crucial in the craft ceremony. So we know, where did the legend come from? Who inserted it? And creating a formerly non-existent grade. Now, this is the point when we can return or should return to the medieval mystery plays. Just for clarification, no mystery play ever, at least by our knowledge, because there are known more than 100 mystery plays written down. So no mystery plays ever had the main character or even minor character, this brass worker, Hiram from Tyre, not the king of Tyre, Hiram from Tyre. So as I said, there was even more than 100 years ago, there were 14 different hypotheses where this could have been originated. You can find a very good description of this. The Hiramic legend and the Ashmolean theory was even on Amazon, so you can have the Kindle version very easily available. Now, since then, in the past more than 100 years, there is more consideration was given to the mystery plays. And it has, as I said, it has the most dramatic and the most theatrical part of our ritual. Even in emulation, they couldn't totally eliminate that part of, because what is the drama? The function of the drama, the main function is to cause what is called by Aristotle the catharsis, that kind of cleaning of the soul by living, experiencing that tragedy or that dramatic event on the stage, because we identify ourselves with the main characters, and by their victory or their fall or their death, it impacts our mind, our soul, and by that we are supposed to go through a kind of we clean it. It's a kind of cleaning our souls. It's a kind of relieving that drama. Our soul gets to another stage. So we also know that these mystery plays that we mentioned already several times were presented by the guilds and incorporations. They were in charge every year that this guild has to present this play and to finance and to perform these on different occasions that were established by the city and the church. So although the church or the city said this date, this big holiday, we should have certain plays presented, but for the performance, I would say the production of the show and the financing of the play was done by different guilds. So it is not very far-fetched to think that the dramatic form of the mystery plays must have influenced the form and the structure of the third degree. Now, there are also other theories that if we accept that John de Sagulier is the person who added the third degree and developed the third degree, and given his French family background, it could be that he got the model from what is called the chanson du geste. It's a medieval type of French legends. So we have very scarce references about the Hiramic legend, but we cannot discard totally this idea because if you look into details, how it was done and how it is presented even today, there are a lot of resemblances. And I have to mention here a very good book that inspired me to go into more details. It's by our brother Robert G. Davis, The Mason's Word, The History and Evolution of the American Masonic Ritual. I am showing it. Yeah, it's a bad. Yeah, this is the book. If you have a chance, get it because it's very interesting. He also mentions where I have this paper in at the Master Mason's degree. He also mentions the possibility of the influence of the mystery plays upon the development of the third degree. Now, I know that it is accepted that de Sagulier might be the most likely person to be behind this early innovation, so to speak, because it was an innovation. But, and even if his sources are not completely known, everything is just a educated guess based on references, based on documents inside and outside of the craft, like personal letters or announcement in newspapers, contemporary newspaper. And only lately, the academic research started to look to this kind of sources that are not inside of Freemasonry, written by Masons to Masons, usually lacking any kind of scientific, the Masons writing history for Masons usually are not historians. They are not educated in how to do research, and they make up a lot of stories, and because we like those stories, we even propagate them, and without giving a second thought. And only in the past 40, 60 years started the official academia, I mean, researchers at the university centers, at different departments of universities, to look into Freemasonry as an object for studying certain social aspects, social influences, and put it in the overall big picture of the social development and social history of the times. Because most of the time we talk about, I mean, Masonic history talks about Freemasonry as if it existed in a vacuum, no ties to the real history. It happened this and that, and it is never mentioned, or almost never mentioned, what exactly happened at that year or around that time in the history of what is called, the traditional history of that country, of that nation, or on the world stage, and how that might or could have been influenced what happened inside the craft. So luckily, I say luckily because I like this tendency that we are taking Freemasonry, I mean, most of the recent contemporary researchers, scholars from different parts of the world, looking at Freemasonry in the wider context, and suddenly a lot of things start to make sense, and it's easier to understand the different moves, the different events, what happened in the development of the craft or in the development of our ritual. There is an interesting theory that maybe there was a need for the third degree. This is again just a hypothesis, that because from the early 1720s, when the new Grand Lodge, we call it the Premier Grand Lodge, made it mandatory, the regular meetings on a certain day of the month or in a certain, sorry, in a fixed place and fixed time. And some people think that the 2 degrees were not sufficient to fill all these meetings and to give something more to the candidates and to the participants. So that's how they came up with the idea that it should be added something more that is could be more attractive, see, theater, to the participants, and showing not only the classic moral teaching, but something more philosophical, something more, how to say, esoteric and more abstract. And that's how they invented this legend based on unknown sources. And as they developed, basically what they did, they took part of the second degree. So that's why the second degree is the shortest degree everywhere. And they add then to that part that they took out, they also added this new Hiramic legend. Some researchers go as far, they said that even the royal arch was added and developed by the same times by de Sagulier or his friends. I think that's not really proven. It is just an idea that could be. So there is still a lot to figure out. But most importantly, from the point of view of my paper and what I wanted to present, that there is a resemblance in the structure, in the dramatic, effectiveness of the mystery plays and our third degree. So it's not that it takes verbatim, parts from a mystery play, but the concept, how it is presented and how it is given to the spectators, which in the lodge is always a very tricky question, because we could be at the same time spectators watching what is going on, and next moment we just jump up and we become one of the players when presenting part of the ceremony. So there is always this back and forth between being a participant and being a spectator in a lodge. But overall, in this degree, as we take the candidate to the different stages, so to speak, and explaining what we have to explain, the philosophy and the contemplation about the big questions of life that every philosophy is asking and trying to answer. So in that regard, yes, there is resemblance between the mystery plays and their structure, how they are done and how they were presented, might have had an influence upon this dramatic, theatrical aspect of our ritual, how the Hiramic legend is presented. I mentioned those two Irish lodges in Ontario, in London, Ontario, and it's very interesting that I have been and witnessed not third degree, but also, second. I guess last year, or I was in there for a second degree, which is a second degree. Nothing as spectacular as the third. When I went to visit to see their third degree, the Master Mason degree, that's when, to my big surprise, when I went the first time, they were all dressed up in costumes, and it was really, they came in, it was like a live show, like theater show, played there in the middle of the lodge room, and we were the spectators, so to say. So that was a very, very it was an experience that I cannot even explain properly how deep impact it had. And that's why I am thinking that any kind of theatrical element, be it the mystery plays or being inspired from some other type of theater, although for the Masons, probably is the mystery plays presented by guilds could have been the most likely source of influence, of idea how to do it. So I will stop here and leave you with all these questions, whether how it was incorporated, what was the influence of the mystery plays, and I welcome you either now or later if you want to contact me to discuss and to disprove my idea. And I thank you for your attention, and I will hand it over to our host, and I will put maybe in the chat, I can, if I am allowed, I can put a link to the Amazon where you can eventually purchase this book if you are interested. But I will put also my email, because if you want a signed copy from me, that's also a possibility, and we can discuss it privately in email. And what else? You will tell me what else I need.
Thank you, Istvan. I was waiting for the handoff there. Yep. Thank you very much. That were definitely some interesting ideas you presented. Are there any questions or comments about his presentation? Please just speak up. Anyone? I did find it interesting how you mentioned that a lot of people aren't aware that even the Master Mason's degree, we all assume a lot about Masonry. We assume that when in 1717, when the Grand Lodge of London was founded, it wasn't even called England till later, that they did things exactly the way we do things now and all like that. But it wasn't until a few years later that the Master Mason's degree was added, and that the second section being about Hiram was not added till later. There was actually, as I understand it, basically at the time that we founded the first Grand Lodge, it was only so many lodges that stepped in and said, yes, let's do this, and other lodges joined in. There was much tradition and custom all throughout England and Scotland and Ireland of lodges that have been around for 100, 200 years or more. each independent, each formed on their own, and they all had their own customs and traditions. There was a competing second section, if you will, or a competing degree related to Noah that was prominent for a time. And, you know, you tell the joke about if a time traveler goes back in time and moves a chair or kills a butterfly, you know, our timeline changes. It, with a little tweak here or there, it's very likely that we'd be sitting here talking about the Noah type degree that we confer in the Master Masons. And believe it or not, there was something about some guy named Hiram who was at Solomon's Temple. That was a competing degree that never caught on. So in a different world, we'd be talking about the Noah degree. So it's kind of interesting, and we all just assume that what, like I said, what we're doing is exactly how it was always been done. Very much not the case. I always find that interesting. You know, it's not exactly, things aren't as old as we think they are necessarily, and not as set in stone. And I think you have a point about some elements of the Fellowcraft degree were pulled over into forming the Master Masons degree, and if then that becomes what we think of as normal or what Masonry is. And in the 1700s and earlier, it wasn't. It was something totally different. I think that's fascinating. We have to keep challenging our perspectives, I guess, or our perceptions. Any other questions for Istvan? All right, somebody speak up. I want to hear about the giraffe that Ron has behind him there. That's kind of cool looking. Now that we're in gallery view, I can see everybody's pictures a little bit better.
I remember when I bought that. There was a liquidator store, and they had these giraffes are normally kind of expensive. They're sort of not Art Deco, but anyway. The prices was radically reduced, and they came in a set of 3, one big one and 2 small ones. And 8 other people in our office bought them too. So we had 24 giraffes in our office place at work.
Oh wow!
But my wife wasn't particularly fond of it.
Tell me that's the small one.
That's the large one. But no, I was going to say I'm very much of the view that the mystery plays influenced Masonry, and even the ancient mysteries, Greece and Rome and so forth, had mystery plays, and of course the mystery of Osiris and Isis, Osiris who dies and then is resurrected, as a mystery play in Egypt, has some similarities to the mystery drama in the third. This has been a way of teaching. I mean, even if you think of Paleolithic times when the people sitting around a campfire would be acting out the hunt, the hunt they went on, so certainly I think this. But the part that is of interest to me is that, well, yes, there's this mystery play aspect of things, but it wasn't always part of Masonry because, as you've just been saying, the third degree as we know it wasn't always there. So.
Okay. Dale, did you have a comment? I'm sorry. Oh, go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Briefly, when we go on into some of the other rites, like the Scottish Rite and so forth, of course, a lot of those presentations are very much like mystery plays, and very much of the idea, as our speaker has mentioned, at some point you're part of a drama, then you're back to part of a ritual, and you're part of a drama, and so that theme from the third seems to carry on ritual drama wise in the Scottish Rite work as well.
Dale, did you have a comment?
Yes, if you don't mind. Hi,
Istvan.
Hello. You are talking to us about the both function and form, and of the creation of the Hiramic legend. Would you care to comment on whether the impact? It's like as you were talking, I was thinking about how the morality has been historically carried through different cultures, and we use fairy tales and myths and mystery plays. But over the period, hundreds of years, we've seen a shift, an interesting shift in the import of organized religions around the world, and yet we're paying attention to morality plays or the moral content of the storylines, whether it's a first degree, second degree, third degree. It's within the context of Freemasonry. So, are you thinking that there's been a change in that context because we are where you and I are, is in a secular environment? We don't have I'll leave it at that. What do you think?
I don't know if at that time when the third degree was added or at the beginning of Freemasonry, the environment wasn't as secular as it is today, definitely. And although we can look at it again, if we look at the wider context, social context, it was the beginning of Freemasonry and the beginning of the more secular view of the world, later known as the Enlightenment, kind of coincide. So yes, in the medieval times, the only intellectual, spiritual, the framework that you could talk and place everything in the Western culture was the Christian framework, mindset. So everything outside of it was neglected or considered heretic. And basically, it is this time, the Enlightenment, which coincides with the development of the modern Freemasonry as we know it today, that different kind of, they created a new framework, what we could call secular, but sometimes it's not even that secular, which we today almost always we say secular, we think about atheistic kind of worldview, but at that time was even the deist kind of approach to created a new framework that they could place philosophy and the big question, the meaning of life, and that kind of big questions of the human condition. So I think yes, it was kind of giving at the beginning, even the Freemasonry, based on my studies, it was quite Christian in every regard. It was a later development that they were trying to make it as attractive to even non-Christians and to be more, we would say today, more inclusive, but basically because they had also this idealistic, optimistic idea that instead of religious dogma, some kind of more enlightened worldview could take over the whole world, and in this regard, Freemasonry might be or could be a good tool to spread this new idea. So yes, it was made to be accepted as a moral teaching not based strictly on certain religious dogmas. Okay, that's a long way of answering your question, but I
Well,
hope it made sense.
But I think it's really interesting that you've. I'll say that you did this quite deliberately. That Desaulniers, but let's presume that he had some reason to add to want the third degree, the Hiramic legend, to be part of this. But I may be inclined to argue with you if you care to at a later date that his point perhaps wasn't necessarily the content of this, but the fact that it raises a question, and that after hundreds of years, the question is still with us. And the reasoning behind that will have shifted as we have. We have different perspective today, different but similar. But the genius of it is that, as you said, it starts off with dialogue. And we tried to strip the drama out of it as much as we possibly could and make it boring. But here we arrive at a similar question that would have occurred back in the day. I think that's very excellent presentation.
I wanted to say, Vilmos asked a question in the chat. This will be available, and I'm sorry that he joined late. We talked earlier about time zones, and during daylight savings time, half the people get thrown off. But this will be posted to YouTube. All of our videos are on YouTube. And if you look, I'll put the chat back in there, at least the one, since I understand if you join later, you don't get to see earlier chats. So, yes. Vilmos, I'm throwing this in there. That's a link to our previous unstated. There's over 50 videos I have up there on our channel of other unstateds. So I do my best to clean it up, edit it, and have it published before the next unstated. Sometimes I get one or two behind. I think I haven't done the latest one. I know geography, Masonic geography is up there. So I think there's one that I haven't got to yet. So I would say reasonably within a couple of weeks or a month of each unstated, I get it up on YouTube. Sometimes I'm on the ball and get it done the next day. Sometimes it takes a couple weeks. So just keep an eye out, but it will be available. And I will edit out a lot of the nonsense of me at the beginning here with the all the video adjustments that people had to sit through. So that's so I don't clean it up much. I don't interrupt. I generally don't edit the speaker unless I have to. Pretty much it's the stuff at the beginning I trim away that may not be that interesting. So, Ron?
Yeah, quick question. I do a Friday night Zoom thing on some esoteric things that I have for a number of years, and I do have to clean that up usually myself too. So I think I actually end up using the Photos software in Windows, which actually handles, even though it's called Photos, it handles videos as well. And so I'll trim off, maybe the beginning, just like you're talking about. But unfortunately, then it leaves the rest of the video slightly compromised quality-wise. It's a bit of degrading in the quality of the visual quality of the video. And I'm wondering if there's any sort of software that you're using that you maybe have better luck with.
Absolutely. It's called, get the right name, VideoPad. It's one word, VideoPad. I think I paid for a version. Yeah, it was like, I don't think it was that much. It's under 100. But VideoPad is very good for entry-level stuff. There may be some free software if you want to look, but I found this was willing to pay to get it because it has screen capturing capability. And I'm trying not to sneeze. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't have a chance to meet that. VideoPad's been very effective for me. I can pull in, you make a project, and then you can pull in audio files, video files, stills, and I just sort of weave it all together. And it's pretty good. You can do like transitions, what have you. So I have like a rough transition from one section to the next. And I'm far from an expert. My son is actually better at video editing than me. He's considering a job at editing videos. He has other software that he's tried out. But it does the job, and you can have multiple tracks. So you can have like overlays, you can have text, But generally, if you watch any of the videos I have out there on YouTube, I have like a still that I build in. I just build a PowerPoint presentation, and I just change the first part of it. I'll go ahead and throw it up there. Let's just see. Give me one sec, YouTube. Yeah. I'll go and share this real quick. Let's see where we at. Let me get a better one. What I do is I have one that I just keep recycling year in, year out. Show that to everybody. If y'all can see that. So that's just the, and now of course I can't see it because there it is. So yeah, that's just my standard thing where I just change the title and the date, and then I leave my name down at the bottom, and Mozart is my lead-in music. You know it to hear it. It's the da da dun da da dun da da dun dun. I think it's Anaclindonaut music. I have that as my standard intro and outro for these, and then I have a thank you for watching that I put up at the end. That's the same, the African jungle thing that I found there. But it's, for me, it's like I just clean up the video itself and just drop it in clip by clip and line it up. It's very easy to use. I really like it. And
I just want to say I really enjoyed this session. I really enjoyed our speaker's presentation here. This is stuff that I really think we need more of in masonry.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have some jurisdictions where they're saying, well, we'll just kind of phase out the ritual. We don't really need that part of masonry. We'll just have an easier way of signing people on as masons without bothering with this ritual and so on. And of course, the ritual is the core of our work, you know.
Totally.
And in my view, I've held for many years as well a Masonic breakfast group on Sundays. I cook up, you know, nice breakfast, and we have people who discuss various Masonic books and so on. And the reason I was doing that is because a lot of this stuff, it's very hard to get going in the lodges. Sometimes there's a tendency to treat Masonry more as a social club or more as just another you know, charitable thing like the Lions or the other groups and so on. And it was an uphill battle for me to get this kind of stuff happening in the lodges, and that's why I went to a route, of course, that we know has worked historically as well, where a lot of Masons who want to discuss some of the deeper things, you know, will get together outside of actual lodge and do it on their own in one fashion or another. Sometimes it's been by founding related groups like the SRIA and I suppose even Golden Dawn was kind of that kind of a thing where some Masons got together and so on. But I just found it hard to get going in the lodges. But this is why these research lodges are so important. You know, this research lodge business is such an important thing. And also there's certain branches of Masonry too that require people to write papers as part of
yes.
their progression. And I think it's tremendously important because the ritual is just not some formal something or other of antiquity that we have to bear with before we can get on with the actual business of masonry. You know,
right.
Our past most worshipful in Ontario here, you know, said it's a work. It's a core of the work, and you know.
Well, Rod, I do believe this is the first time you've joined us, if I'm not mistaken. So we'd love to have you come back again. I'll make sure I get your contact info, because I would welcome you to go check out the YouTube video, see the previous stuff. This is honestly, with all due respect to my research lodge, which makes it possible for me to have this, I think we take it to the next level with the unstated meetings, because we've had topics here in the last 3 years that I've never heard in a Blue Lodge, much less even in a research lodge, that address things like alchemy and such, that it's like totally like, oh my goodness. And we've had at least 2 on the Kabbalah so far. And Kabbalah is one of those things that you had mentioned in the Scottish Rite, and then that's it. This is more what we should be doing as Masons. I totally agree. And I've had a talk with another brother from our lodge who he's struggling to spread Masonic education within his district there in Richmond, Virginia, which is where we're based out of. And it's like you're going to be beating your head against the wall if you're trying to get every Mason showing up at your regular Blue Lodge to get into education. You can get away with presenting education. At a minimum, you should have a paper at every meeting, a short Masonic education talk to reach all the brothers. And people aren't going to really object. It's like, oh, okay, that's different. That's interesting. Maybe you'll attract some, maybe you won't, but you can't expect to get everybody involved. Having research discussions on another night or before a meeting or after a lodge ritual school, if you have a weekly thing, to get people rolling is one way. Plus these online ways. I mean, it was COVID that made this possible. But because of it, I've got a global network, small though it is, of Masons all over the world who tune in for this on a regular basis.
This is great. This is Mason Michael Doucette actually put me onto this. I don't know if you not know him, but so this has been really, really good. And you know, sometimes you go to lodge and you'll meet somebody and you'll have this great discussion, but you know, it'd be nice if it wasn't just this private discussion in a corner of the room. If it was but the pandemic really had a silver lining, because the pandemic basically is what led to me finding out about Zoom, and we couldn't have as many in-person meetings at my home, and so we started doing these Zoom meetings. And then of course people who were farther afield could join the meeting as well. So the pandemic did have a silver lining. And
so we definitely, it definitely has opened it up. But I guess I appreciate the fact that I get 10 to 12 people to 20 people to attend these. I want there to be more, but I have to appreciate those who do come out because they are making the effort. But it seems like we have a core group that regularly attends these, and the Research Lodge will have their meetings, and people will come for those, but we're always worried about growing attendance in the Research Lodges because I feel like there's not enough. We need to keep that going. But it's sort of like I'm trying to look at every possible venue I can find out there to reach people, and YouTube is one way. We meet here, we can discuss, we have fun, we talk, we joke with each other, and then we put it on YouTube, and another audience may come across it and watch all the YouTube videos and never actually come to a Zoom, but they'll watch the videos later. So I'm always thinking about who's my core audience and how do I grow what is the community I'm trying to feed? Because there is slightly convicting, there's conflicting levels of effort if I'm going to make my research, get more people into my research lodge, or get more people to sit in on an unstated meeting, or get more people to go on YouTube and watch the videos, or get more people to join my Facebook group. And that's the easiest one. I've got 1,800 people in our Facebook group. I don't know how many of them come regularly, and I feel like 90% of the content is for me. So it's like, I want to get more discussions going. So there's 100 different ways you can take it. You have to decide where to put your energy. What are you trying to grow? I want to water all the garden. Istvan, I don't want to I can't just water the roses. I've got to water the tulips and the vegetables as well. So it's sort of like, because it's so new and there's no real plan to make this work, I'm just figuring out, I'm just trying what works. And so this has kept going. This has been going great. But I'm always trying to think, how can I make it better? How can I grow the community? Because there is an audience out there I'm reaching, and the ones sitting here are the ones I'm trying to reach. So that's a constant struggle for me, is how can I make it better? I'm never settling for this is good. I want to do more. But we're definitely on the same page. This is what Masonry should be about, is delving more into the mysteries. And if 90% of our members are perfectly happy with just being a social club, that's okay. They keep the lights on. So those of us who really want to do more can delve into it and have the security of having the lodge around us to keep us going and bring us together. So
exactly.
So any other questions, comments? Istvan, I'd really appreciate you coming out before I do my wrap-up stuff. Anyone got any comments or questions? All right. It was good to have you all here. I do want to say, if you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. That helps us grow. Next week, we have Virginia Research Lodges meeting in person. So if you have the means to come to Highland Springs, Virginia, please join us. Brother Michael Joyner is our junior deacon. He will be speaking on Masonry and Amontadillo when Poe's path crosses the craft. So we'll be talking about Edgar Allan Poe and his interactions with Masonry, and that should be most interesting.
Excellent.
And then on the 25th, which is 2 weeks from now, Brother Owen Snowden, who has given presentations here before, he will be speaking on Peter the Hermit and the Knightly Order of the RAOB, which is the Royal Antediluvian Order of the Buffalo. He's always good for bringing up more obscure little bits of masonry that little groups within masonry may not be familiar with. And that kind of ties into last Unstated, which was the brother talking about the Allied Masonic degrees and the Grand College of Rites. So we're touching on these little side things in masonry that not everybody knows about that we still pay attention to and do stuff. So anyway, if you have, thank you all for coming. I do hope you check out the YouTube videos and watch some of the earlier ones, and just pay attention to this space as we add more stuff as I come up with it. So again, Istvan, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you to my lovely co-host Brian. Nice to have you with us. By the way, Brian, is that from the Who album where they went and pissed on the side of the thing? Was that?
No, mate, that's my back door, virtually.
That is awesome.
It's about a mile from where I live.
Okay, I think there was Who's Next? There was some sort of stone structure in London, and they all went up and pissed on it, and that was the cover of the album. You recall that? I think there was the Who's Next album. It made me think of that, the look, but yes.
This is in darkest Cornwall, so about as far from London as you could possibly get.
I guess. All right. Well, it brought to me the Who album. I don't know.
It works then.
It was really nice, but it was nice to see the scenery around you there. I mean, this is my library we're looking at here that I've restored. But yes,
Of course.
Very good.
okay. All right. Thank you all for attending. You all have a great weekend, and I'll see you
You
all
too.
again soon.
See you later. Bye, Chris.
Bye. Bye.